Well, Ron, now I've already got us up and running with the timer clicking down. So you got about 90 seconds to let that caffeine kick in before we actually start jumping into this. But we are live across all these platforms, so this ought to be a blast, brother.
I'm always ready, man.
Don't
need the caffeine. Don't need the caffeine. When you're always ready, you don't got to get ready, man. I stay ready. Let's go.
All right, that's perfect. Well, good. I don't think anyone else is going to mind if we just jump at it. So I see that you brought two forms of liquid. I brought two forms as well. So coffee in the big size Yeti and my protein shake. So
the business of bourbon guy always has some spirits within arm's length too, but I won't be drinking that this morning. But just in case of an emergency, they are there.
Yeah, that's perfect. All right, so let me see here. All right, so we got Brian. Hey, Brian Smith, I see you on there, my friend. Are you? Let's see here. Okay, Brian says there may not be any sound. I've got sound coming.
Brian, my guy.
Yeah, Brian, give me another comment, my friend. Can you hear us now? Because we should have plenty of sound at this time. All right, we'll see here as it goes.
Brian, what's cracking, my man? Brian Smith is a freaking pit master. I don't know if you're following this guy on Instagram, but he makes some beautiful meats, man. By the way, Brian, I need you to drop some of that brisket off of the house. We've talked about this, my friend.
So that's perfect. All right, well, awesome. Well, hey, Brian, thank you for checking on the sound. This is awesome. Love a chance to get here and talk. Brian's obviously been a fan, friend, etc. You and I both worked with him in the past. So, Brian, love you being here, my friend. Thank you for that. All right, Ronell, we're going to turn the tables a little bit. Last time we got together and you got to ask me a lot of questions.
Yeah, that was so much fun, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a blast, man. I love that. That was almost, you brought me back into, what 2019 might have been like.
What do you mean?
Pre-COVID.
Oh, shit, yeah. When
it was okay to actually sit and talk with each other. So that was fantastic. So couldn't be more fired up about that. But I'm so glad to have you here, you joining me as we start to do some of this live stream across all the platforms. But most importantly, man, because I just love you and I think you are fantastic and bring so much value and energy to this world. And I know 2020 has been an interesting year, to say the least. Lots of fantastic stuff happening in your world, along with some tragedy, along with some other social unrest and some other things that are going on. And so here's the deal. I'm going to ask you a question. I want to know the truth. I told you when we met and you interviewed me, I said nothing's off limits. How does that feel for you today?
Always 100, my friend. I'm in.
All right, well, let's go. So, perfect. So here's what I'd love to know. Let's just start this, man. We're at the end of August. We're coming up on the end of the third quarter. It's been just absolutely probably one of the most interesting and challenging times. Talk to me about the thing that you're most grateful for. Let's start on kind of the upbeat. What are you most grateful for over the course of the last 8 months?
Wow. Heavy hitter, Ken.
Yeah.
Man, a couple days ago, I had put a post up on LinkedIn and other platforms about one of the most impactful days of my life, one of the most important days of my life, and that was last Friday when I sent my son off to college, my oldest. And so, he's down in Atlanta at Georgia State doing his thing now. Yeah. With a year filled with so much, God damn it, man, so much emotion, so many events. That certainly is the highlight for me, and certainly the most important for me on so many levels. Just for me, it's as though I'm witnessing generational change and evolution, which is just so powerful. So I go back to my experience as an 18-year-old, my father's experience, my grandfather's experience, and to see here we are in 2020 when my kid is off to college, and it's not a big deal. Like, this is just what we do. This is just what you do. That wasn't the case for me. Certainly wasn't the case for my father, and absolutely wasn't the case for my grandfather. Right. I mean, I come from a family. My grandfather passed away in 97, and my grandfather was 97 years old.
Wow, nice.
Do the math there. And so I come from a family that's literally a couple of generations away from slavery and one generation away from legal slavery and sharecropping, right? And so to see that evolution in our family and to experience that and to be a part of that, and to kind of see some of the things that I envisioned when my son was born come to fruition is just powerful. But I would say that I don't pat myself on the back in the sense of like, oh, I created this. No, my parents started it. Like, what I am today is because of their intention, and how they raised me and how they wanted me to be an entrepreneur. And so and I just kind of carried on that same sort of philosophy and how I wanted to raise my kids. So to see that happen to my son and see where he's at is like, man, I'm on cloud 9, brother. Like, all the other shit that I've done just doesn't matter as compared to that.
Yeah, pales in comparison. Certainly, my kids are a little bit older than yours. With my youngest just leaving for college, it's bittersweet. You know, it's.
I know, right?
It's definitely a bittersweet moment in time. So, well, good. Well, congratulations on that. I know that, man. You and I talked a lot about it. I said all the work that went into that for him choosing a college, for all those types of things that are coming along. So that's awesome, and that's great that that's something you can lean into. Now, you know, this year has been one of those that's interesting, and I'm going to be the first to admit, because you and I will talk about some of this stuff. We did a little bit when we were when I was on your podcast, Business and Bourbon, which, by the way, I haven't plugged yet. Top 200, which for those of you who don't understand what Top 200 podcast means, that means it's the real deal, because there's tens of thousands of podcasts. So to be in the top 2,000, so do the percentages, right? That's a top 0.1% podcast. So if you haven't checked out Business and Bourbon, do it. There's one of the plugs, which will be plenty because I love this guy. So we talked a little bit, but here's the truth, right? So we'll get into some business stuff, but I think all this other social stuff is kind of important too.
Yep.
I am soon to be 49-year-old white guy. So for me, it's been everything that's happened this year has probably been a very different experience than it has been for you.
Oh yeah.
You know, because it's probably much easier for me in my position to just, I don't know what the right word is, but I think it's not, maybe I don't feel it because I've never felt it, right? You and I went to Minneapolis together, and it was kind of really the first time that I got to be exposed to what's it like to be in Ronell's shoes. Mm-hmm. So some of the stuff that's gone on this year, I mean, you know, whether it's George Floyd or some of the other things that are occurring, I mean, how are you handling that? Because those are things that have to be, like I said, I would bet they impact you and just the way your psyche is a lot more than some of us who have not been exposed to those types of things.
Yeah. Great question, Ken. And so I will start by saying that nothing has changed for me. Okay. What I mean by that is that I've lived this. Yeah. This is my life. This is how we've lived. And so when we talk about change and we talk about who it affects, it's really you, Ken, because it's you that we have to reach. It's you that we have to be able to communicate with to actually to be a catalyst for the change that we want. Right. Yeah. So what I decided to do, Ken, a few months ago, you know, as things were starting to heat up and ramp up, and you know this, but I'll share it with the audience. You know, I decided to lead in this respect. I am not afraid to lead. Right. And there are a lot of people that are either in positions where it's uncomfortable for them and let's be clear, this is an uncomfortable conversation as much as people feel like it's uncomfortable to hear, it is even more uncomfortable to say and to talk about these things, because when you have trauma in your life, I don't care what it is, abuse, whatever, when you have trauma in your life, you want to put that in a compartment and put it in the back and not talk about it, not because it's painful. And so I have decided that I want to be an agent of change, and that I'm signing up to help lead and to make sure that the conversation continues. But not only the conversation continues, that we get change that is for the betterment of our country, not just Ronell, for our country. We are leaders in this globe. We should lead in every respect, social, economical. Like, this is a great country, and you know, we have issues like everyone has issues. But the thing about it is, when you have issues, you don't just sit back and say, well, we have issues, but everyone else has issues, but we're still the best. No, we say, you know what, we're striving, just like we do in our personal lives, we're striving to be the very best version of ourselves, and we should be striving to be the very best version of the United States that we can be. And part of that is getting rid of this black eye. So, Ken, you're asking me, and so I'm going to talk about it. It's something that I'm actually dropping a video tomorrow, and that I filmed a couple of days ago, prior to even this last shooting, which, you know, the details are coming out of that. I don't give a shit what the details are. Shooting a dude in the back, shooting a guy in the back 7 times is a bad look. I don't give a shit what you got to say. I'm just saying. Anyway, so I'm going to release this video on Friday, and one of the questions that, as I sit down and I've had these great conversations with guys like you, like, first of all, I want to, before I even say this, I want to take my hat off to you and the guys like you that have called me up and said, Ryan, let's talk. Tell me about this, that actually give a shit. That means so much, because you understand your importance in this. Because you can go and Google police brutality, for police protesting, and people can get all up on arms about, you know, riots, whatever. But let me tell you something. You Google that and look at the pictures, you're going to see pictures. You're going to see protests going back 100 years. The same. You can literally take the same sign and it existed 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years, 60, 70 people marching and having the same sign. Stop killing us. Things like that. And we're still dealing with the same thing, right? So let's focus on the issue first of all. But again, I want to thank you and guys like you, because at the end of the day, like, you're the ones that are going to help us to make this change, right? So this video that I'm going to drop, a lot of people like you have asked me, you're like, okay, good, I get it. Like, the emotion, I get it. Like, this sucks. I don't like this. We all don't like this. People are protesting. Okay, cool. Now what? Like, what do we want? What do you want? And that's a valid question, because, you know, what do you want? What's the outcome? What outcomes do we want? And so what I'm going to share in this video is really what matters to me, and not to speak for others, but to kind of also articulate how we can actually affect the change that we want. And it starts, like, we're coming into election season. So whether it's national, local, whatever, your local's more important than the national, if you ask me. I would say that what matters to me, what I'm going to say, and what this video talks about, is reform, right? And reform, I mean greater transparency and accountability. That's it. So this shooting that just happened a couple of days ago in Kenosha, Wisconsin, those cops didn't have cameras. Why do cops anywhere in this country not have cameras? Every cop has a gun, right? Every cop should have a camera. The technology exists, and it's not just for the public, yet it's for the cops. Like, everybody wins if we have greater transparency, and then we have accountability. So I am for anyone, any politician, anyone that's having those discussions, that wants to have those discussions, and that has a plan for greater transparency and accountability. Ken, if I want to go get a surgery tomorrow I need to go get my knee worked on. I go on Google and I say, okay, knee surgeons, and it says, and this guy, he's got an A. This lady, she's got a C. This person's got this. It's easy. If I want to know about my senators and my other folks, I go in, I Google them. Okay, this is where they approve all these sorts of things. People that walk around with guns and are and their job is to protect and serve the public. We need some greater transparency and we need more accountability. We should know a little bit more about the folks that are out there carrying guns and whose job it is to protect us. And so that's what I am for. That's what I want. That's what I'm telling my friends and advocates. If you're down with this or you're down with me, listen, look at who's running in your local areas. Look who's running nationally. If they support the things that you support, I'm never going to tell people who to vote for. You vote because I value the process way too much. Too many people died for us to have the ability to vote. Yeah. People don't understand that this thing that that's being politicized right now with the post office and all this other bullshit. People literally died just so that we could have the right to say, oh, I want this person, and so that is not lost on me. So I will never tell you who to vote for. I would just say that your vote matters, if for anything, because someone died, so you had the ability to do it. So So I'm encouraging people to vote for people that support, and not just support, but have plans to address that problem specifically. Transparency, accountability, and on all levels. You're going to vote in the national elections. You vote in your local elections. That's what I'm talking about.
So let me ask you a question: Is the following acceptable? Because it's amazing to me. I think many times I feel like people are telling me this isn't acceptable, and I happen to kind of believe that it should be. Is it possible that the following words matter? That all human lives matter, and not all cops are dirty?
Of course.
Because I think the part where I run into a brick wall is when we use the exact same thing that got us into the problem, labeling people by the easiest thing, right? You and I talked about that before the Business Bourbon podcast. But like, hey, just because we want to be around people like us, and the easiest thing if we don't know them is skin color, right? Or the uniform they wear, or the thing, they all must be bad. And at the same time, black lives, white lives, gray lives, blue lives, alien lives, and I know I'm making light of it, which isn't probably appropriate, but all lives matter. And so if we were to just do that, I think what's awesome about what you just said, though, is about the idea of the transparency, because it works both ways.
So the one thing I want to make sure that is clear, Ken, is that, see, when people typically, poke holes in the Black Lives Matter movement, well, all lives matter. Sure, yes, all lives matter, but we need to put things in a proper context.
Sure.
We live in a country that for the last, 400 or 500 years, systemically, a black life was not the same.
Yeah.
It hasn't been viewed the same. Yeah. It hasn't been viewed as important as a white life. So anyone that wants to debate that, just look at some history.
That moment right there is what I needed.
Yeah.
Right? Because it gave me the perspective on it. Right? Because honestly, till you just said that, I hadn't even thought of it that way. Because I don't live in those shoes. And I thank you for that, because that wasn't, it was something I can tell you that I struggled with, because I was like, don't all lives matter? Yeah. And so, yes, when you give me the perspective on that, I appreciate that. So I know we've been hot and heavy here for 20 minutes, and it's not your normal like LinkedIn stuff. Amber jumped on and said she thinks too many people are afraid to tackle this on LinkedIn. And she was like, thanks, guys. Way to go. This is awesome.
Not me, Amber.
Yeah. So, no. You know me. I've got an opinion or two or 12. Yeah. So we're not afraid of anything. But so let's kind of, I want to pivot some. We've talked a lot about kind of what's going on in life, what's happened that you're proud about, what's happening socially. So let's take the social component. Let's add the pandemic in.
Yeah.
Let's put the third thing in there being the component of transparency that we've talked about. All of those things are having a significant impact on business today.
Yeah.
So tell me what you're seeing out there, as what the mindset of the businesses are today. And then maybe after we kind of set the current state, we can talk to, hey, and what can people do to improve so that 2021 is an absolute rock star year?
Okay, so first, this is the weirdest shit ever. It is the weirdest shit ever.
You might have had an alien landed in your backyard and asked you if you wanted to skinny dip in your pool.
It's just as likely. I mean, like, so there are so many things at play, Ken. You know, you and I, we work with businesses, we consult with businesses and sales professionals, and so I see things from so many different angles. It is my business to know business, right? And so I see manipulation. I see a lot of I see it's funny, like COVID is good. COVID by and large has been pretty good for business, right? Yeah,
you're good at business.
Man, even if you're not, if you're a manipulator, it's been good too. Like, let's talk about healthcare. I just got off a call with a friend I was just giving a little advice to on his pod and everything. So we started talking about this a little bit, and just the sensationalization of COVID, the numbers that we're constantly seeing every day, the economic impact. People don't think what's behind the numbers. They don't think about the money that's behind the numbers. As these COVID numbers, as they continue to rise, it's good for business. Because there's so much government subsidies, so much government money that's going to healthcare. Every time someone tests positive, every time someone tests positive, every time someone takes a test, for that matter, takes a test. Ken, let me ask you a question. Last time you had the flu, what did you do, my friend?
I worked.
Yeah, bro, you got the orange juice. You sat down. Did you go to the doctor and get tested for the flu?
Right, might have moved 2 appointments. It was about it.
Yeah, but did you go to the doctor and get tested for the flu?
No,
you didn't. Right, you just sat on and you got through it. So the sensationalization of this, what's happened is people in droves are going to get tested, right? And all those tests, right? I personally, in my circle, in my extended world, I don't know anyone that's tested positive, but I know a shitload of people that have had tests. Right? Yeah. And so I look at the money that's behind this, and I just think it's kind of this cluster right now. That's one part of it, okay? But the other side of it is when this thing started back in March, I did a video and I said, hey, listen, guys, this is what I'm telling all of my clients. I said, look, there's opportunity in this. Like, there's going to be opportunity for small business that has never existed. Because when we have these massive things that affect our economy, the big guys always get taken care of. Whether it's car bailouts, whether it's airline bailouts, whatever it is, they get taken care of. I said, this is the first time in my lifetime that the small business person is going to be able to have an opportunity to get something that's going to inject their business with some cash and things like that to really to help to take them over the top. So I know many businesses that have taken advantage of that, and they weren't. And I said at the time, listen, I don't care whether you're in bad shape or not. It's going to be there for you. Don't forget about it, because the big guys always take it. Go get it. So I've seen small businesses get saved from this. Small businesses that were in bad shape.
Bad balance sheets, bad P&Ls, bad process, too many people, and here's $27, or whatever, right? Or here's $1 million. All those things came to fruition.
So I've seen that. I've seen tech, man, obviously, if you're in tech, my sister works for Zoom, it's ridiculous. Anyone that's in tech, virtual tech, doing really well. I've seen so many businesses do well because of this. Now, I will tell you that my friends that are in like experiential restaurants like King and Duke, where you and I sat to do our podcast, they're hurting. But part of the reason they're hurting is because their employees aren't coming back to work. Because they were making more money at home. I'll tell you something else that's not been talked about much in this. I've just seen so much, and I know, before I say this, understand, if you've been affected by COVID, you have someone pass away, that sucks.
Yeah.
And that is a reality. Yes, there are people that have died from this.
Yeah, and we're not here to change your mind on that. That's not the point of this, really, right?
100%.
Yeah.
But one of the beautiful things I've seen from this is early on, like what gets sensationalized is negativity, right? So the media and all that, because that's what sells advertising. It's all about business.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm not here to poke holes in that. That is what it is. But one of the things that that hasn't been talked about is how many people have been able to spend time with their families that they never were able to before.
Right.
I was on a call with a guy last week, and he's like, "Listen, Ronell, I think I need to do something else with my life because, listen, my gig requires me to spend 4 hours of windshield time a day. The last 3 months, I've been at home with my kids, and I've never had that time with them. And so that is one of the most beautiful things from this. So many people have been able to spend time with their family and their loved ones because of this. That's awesome. But that really doesn't get talked about. I've heard increased domestic violence because that shit sells, right? If you're an asshole, being at home with your kids gonna make you more of an asshole, right? But most of us aren't assholes.
Yeah, well, I don't know about most, but that's I only like to make declarative statements about things I really know. No. Yeah, I've seen it certainly where I've seen there are businesses that are successful, but I've also seen some other businesses. So let's talk about, there is a side of the world. There are things like companies that are in, like the trade show industry was a massive industry, right? There are industries that were B2B that did get beat up. And so I'm interested because I've had conversations with a number of companies that are kind of in different spaces where, things just stopped because people couldn't travel. And so I've got my own opinions clearly about what they should be doing now as opposed to what they've been doing. But you're sitting in one of those businesses who's been a little bit stalled out. It's the end of August and you're going, okay, even if I have to pivot, let's assume that my industry is not going to come all the way back, right? What's next? What do I do next as that particular business salesperson, entrepreneur, etc.? I mean, how do I create a mental space where I can actually go out and be successful?
So my first question is, those companies that you're talking about and that you've had engagement with, have any of them closed their doors?
Business is down 97% in one of them.
But has any of them closed their doors?
Not yet.
No, but have they closed their doors?
No, they haven't closed. Well, no, because otherwise we're not talking about recovery.
Yeah. And so here's where I'm going to go back to what I initially talked about with this opportunity for small business. Yeah. Even this, is as ugly as it is for a company like that, is a massive opportunity. Here's why I say this, is because the reason why they're still in business is they probably got PPP and they got SBA, because if they didn't, they'd be out of business. Your business is down 97%. Right. So you've got this opportunity to get this, in some cases, money that you don't even have to pay back to evolve your business plan and to evolve your business model, right? So companies like that, like normally some shit like that happens, act of God, they're shit out of luck. They're out of business. Yeah. But no, they were able to get funds that keep operating. So now they can figure out how business is going to look moving forward. So when they come out of this thing, not only have they created something new in their business, but they're gonna be stronger, because the other shit, it's going to come back eventually. Like, yeah, you're in event space, people are gonna come out and we're gonna do events eventually. Is that a year from now, 2 years? I don't know. But you will have created something new that didn't exist before if you're smart enough to figure that out. I will use myself as an example because I'm in the event business too. Yeah. And so I went from these live events, which I am very intentional when it comes to events. Like I want, it's everything that I do with my events have been about experience. And this is stuff I've talked about incessantly. I want to touch, I want to feel people. We travel and we do these things to make sure that they have this great experience. And so I couldn't do events either. And what came from this is creating the Business and Bourbon virtual whiskey tasting experience, which has been phenomenal for my business. Yeah. Phenomenal. We're doing more business starting this month of September, we're doing more business. We will do where with our live show, we were able to do one a month, right? It's a lot of work. We do 1 month. We're traveling. It's a lot of overhead. We've got 6 virtual events scheduled for the month of September.
Yeah.
That was because I looked at it and I said, okay, what are we going to do? And we did something. We took action. Like, it wasn't just sitting back waiting. Okay, well, shit, we can't do that. What are we going to do? No, I'm like, okay, well, we got to figure it out. What are we going to do? And so did that and executed it really well. And so now it's just rolling like clockwork. So I would say to those companies, just like I mean, like, none of us are entitled to do business. None of us are entitled to be successful. Like, we have to work for this shit. Things changed. Boo-hoo. Figure it out. You're fortunate to be in a position where you're able to have some time to figure it out, and you're not just ass out.
Yeah, I think the difference, right, too, is some of this is, do you need to change a delivery model, or do you need to pivot who your clientele is? And I think that's probably, when I look at the companies that I've been talking to lately, that's really one of the big questions, right? Like, is it just a simple delivery issue? So let's take our industry, and it's part of what you're doing, right? Our industry, anybody who relied on purely doing on-site sales trainings just got smashed, right? Because in March, their next 4 months got shut down, all their revenue disappeared, and then they decided, well, is it a delivery mechanism? And I will say, yeah, there's a delivery issue. The difference between what you've done with your events and what I've seen in our industry with many people is they're doing a crappy job of going from how they deliver it in person to virtual. And so it's a subpar product. It's a subpar service that they're selling for a lower price point. Oh, wait, by the way, here's my let me get on the soapbox for just a quick second. If any company out there, you're going to hire somebody and they're supposed to teach your people how to negotiate value and keep pricing high, and they came at you with a price that's 87% below what they did for live events because it's a virtual event, I would rethink whether or not those are the people you want in front of your audience, telling them to convey value for your product and service and hold margin. Okay. Infomercial over, because this kind of stuff drives me crazy. But yeah, the difference between, is it a delivery mechanism or is it a pivot and figuring it out? And I would say, like, what I'm seeing is that we have to go from the idea, and there's a guy, Taki Morov, I used as a business coach, and his comment was, you have to go from consuming information to creating it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so we're consuming all this negative, and everybody's telling us our addressable market is smaller, blah, 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 blah. Well, your addressable market's probably not the same for many businesses. And if you're not out testing and you're waiting for an act of God to tell you when it's okay to go back into the market, you're making a mistake.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's that side of, is it a delivery issue only? Like, the customers are still there. They still want to buy. They still want to get the stuff. Or is it, we better figure out if there's a different persona, ideal client profile, or person or thing or business that we solve a better and bigger problem for. You are right. You're really, really right about the idea that it is, though, about free your mind and go ahead and be a little, have some ingenuity, right? Be okay with going, what if? Because the mindset, creating the mindset instead of consuming it, is about, can we change our mindset to one that says, no, I can't, to what if?
Yep.
And most leaders right now that are in a business that might be flat, it may not be struggling big time, it's not growing. They've used this time. Here's the other thing: whether or not they've needed to or not, they've certainly used this time to kind of trim some of the personnel and operating cost fat. But we got to figure those things out. And so I think that's one of the things, like, when I'm talking with businesses about it is, hey, is it a service issue or is it a delivery issue? Is it or is it a targeting issue? And that we've got to look at a bigger and larger market that we can serve more appropriately. I don't know what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree, man. It could be one of those three or all, right? I mean, I think, it's just, this is the time for ingenuity. This is when greatness comes out. This is when you got to look at the leadership that you have in place. You got to look at the people that you've got in place, and figure out whether they are the right people to be around for this. Because this is not the time when you manage process. This is the time when you create some new shit. Some of the most there's some great examples in business history of just like unintended successes, right? Unintended, like, you look at like Post-it notes is a good one. Like that was a failed 3M product, a failed 3M glue, right?
Yeah.
And now they created this whole this essential business product from something that was a failure, right? So I would encourage leaders to really, now's the time to start opening your goddamn eyes. Open your eyes, listen to what the market is telling you, listen to what your customers are telling you, and find out these opportunities. You might be doing something right now or 6 months from now that is totally different than what you were doing. Yeah. Like totally different, but that's what you got to do. That's what we do to survive.
Yeah.
Right. Like, again, none of us are this isn't something that we're promised to be successes in business. Like, you have to continue to evolve your model, be willing to evolve your model. And sometimes, man, as scary as it may seem, it may mean you got to scratch it. You got to scratch it and do something else. Pivot, hardcore pivot. That's what we're in a goddamn pandemic. Like, this is unprecedented territory for the current living generations. Yeah. So you do what you got to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more wholeheartedly on that. So, well, we've been rocking and rolling here for a minute. So, I guess let's get to the point where we can wrap here. So I'll ask you one more question that I think we can kind of roll out on here. And so, if you had one piece of advice, and I don't care what gamut it covers of what we've talked about. We've talked about anything in life and business today, essentially. If you had one piece of advice that you could give to a person that you're sitting across the table from, having a cup of coffee with, and you could say, here's the one thing that I would pay attention to over the course of the next 6 months or longer as the most important thing that you should focus on. What is that?
Oh, easy. I'm about to give a speech here in about 45 minutes to a group about this particular topic. Everything has to be about building advocates for you in your business. Because that will endure. Pandemic, whatever else. People, if you've built advocates for what it is that you do or who you are, you will always have opportunities. You'll always have opportunities. And you do that by really investing in people and having creating value and being willing to give. That's how you do it. And you do that, you'll be successful long term, man.
Awesome. And that, I have nothing else to say. That's essentially a mic drop, my friend. So I appreciate you, and as always, anytime we can get on the horn and chat or get face to face, I absolutely love it. Anybody who's watching, I'll drop Ronell's stuff in all of the appropriate social media, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, etc., where you could have seen this live stream. So definitely hook up with Ronell Richards. Absolutely check out Business and Bourbon Podcast. And my favorite one might be the one that I was on. So, just say it. But
it's called Knock the F Out.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Because we'll tell you how to get up off the mat in that, baby. So, hey, everybody who's watching, thank you. Ronell and I are out of here. We'll see you soon.
Peace. Thanks, Ken.